guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlie Starr. I'm an astrologer and tarot reader. If you would like to book a reading with me, you can do so at charliestarr.com. Today we're going to be talking about the Pisces full moon, which is happening on September 10th. So there's kind of a lot going on here. The full moon is in conjunction with Neptune, which is the ruling planet of Pisces. So there's a lot of heavy Pisces energy in this full moon, sort of it's very exaggerated. Then there's a few aspects happening here. The full moon in Pisces is sextiling Uranus and Taurus, which is in conjunction with the North Node. It went exact last month, so it's separating right now, but it's still definitely in a conjunction. And then it is also trining the Uranus and the North Node is also trining the Sun. We also have, I think very, very important to this full moon, a sextile between Neptune and the moon with Pluto in Capricorn. We also have a very weak square, T-square, that's happening with Mars and Gemini to both the moon and the sun. Okay, so the aspects that are really sticking out to me as important with this full moon would have to be the conjunction with Neptune and also the sextile to Pluto. Why? What this looks like to me is this is a full moon. The full moon is going to be a culmination, a fulfillment, or an ending of something. To have the full moon in Pisces and conjunct Neptune really says to me that an issue is dissolving. It's just disintegrating before our eyes, and it's just sort of evaporating, right? This is kind of the energy that Neptune brings to the situation. Then it's in a sextile with Uranus and the North Node. So Uranus kind of has to do with surprises and, unique and unexpected things. So to me, what this is saying is that this ending, something is ending, but it's ending not exactly the way that we expected. And it might even be the surprise is the ending itself. So something that's suddenly just sort of like disintegrating or evaporating. What is disintegrating or evaporating? Well, the sun is in Virgo. Virgo can represent a lot of different things, but to me what stood out was Virgo representing a problem or an issue or a technical sort of situation that is not exactly working out the way that we wanted. And to have the full moon sort of illuminating that and then just dissolving it, it's like there's a problem that we've been working on for a while or an issue that sort of needs a technical resolution, and this full moon is kind of like suddenly disintegrating it. Like we thought we had this big problem and all of a sudden it's just gone out of nowhere. So this seems like a good thing, right? Because it's like, I mean, we thought we had this huge problem and all of a sudden, this isn't an issue at all. This seemed a little fishy to me. So then when I looked at the sextile to Pluto and Capricorn, I got to warn you that this seems a little fishy. This seems a little sneaky, the fact that this problem is just going away. Pluto has to do with power, with transformation, with burning down, things that are getting in the way. And so all of those things are really good. I mean, it just sort of furthers the disintegration of whatever this issue is. However, I do want to point out that Pluto is the modern day ruler of Scorpio, and Scorpio and also Pluto, because you think about how far away Pluto is from our atmosphere. It's so hidden, it's so mysterious. And Scorpio really does have to do with secrecy. So it's kind of like the idea of like things that are not always as they seem. So it's kind of like this problem is going away, but I kind of get the feeling that it's not completely gone. It looks like it's completely gone, but there's an issue of it being shoved into a closet, being swept under the rug. There's some secrecy here. Things are not exactly as they seem. It looks like this is not an issue, but are we being gaslit into thinking this is not an issue? Are we being, because, Neptune is also a planet that can be very confusing and just kind of give us like a fog around our perception of things, and is just very, very easily gaslit. I definitely associate Neptune with gaslighting as well as Pisces, because this is a sign and a planet that is able to perceive all the different perspectives, and this can make somebody, susceptible to deception, because they are being led down a path of a reality that somebody else, you know, has an agenda for them to believe. So there is a little bit fishy stuff going on with this full moon. I gotta tell you, I did say in a video earlier that when I first looked at this, it kind of seemed like everybody was coming together on an issue and just like agreeing about something. There is a lot of agreement happening in this chart because we do have all these sextiles, we have all these trines, and so I would say that that is still true. It's just upon further investigation, I'm noticing some of the fishier aspects of this full moon. Are you with me? Okay, so let's get into the square with Mars. Mars is in Gemini is forming a loose, I will say loose, T-square with the moon and the sun. It's loose because it's a little bit outside 6 degrees. So actually the chart that I pulled up for the full moon didn't even point it out. It didn't even have an aspect line to it because I typically like to look at aspects that are pretty tight. And this one was pretty loose. So it's just kind of like, it's almost faintly there. But honestly, I felt like this had a lot to do with the fact that there's so much going on underneath the surface with this full moon. So this is how I perceive this to be happening. So whichever planet is moving the fastest, there's a ruling planet for the action based on what degree that it's at. And that planet rules the action that's happening. I won't walk you through all the technicality of it, but this is what it was saying to me, okay? It's like Mars in Gemini. There's this energy of like media coverage. I think a lot of media, when I see Gemini and the internet and information that's being put out there, Mars is in Gemini right now, will be for the rest of the year. Mars in Gemini squaring the sun. It's like there is something that is coming to visibility, that is being exposed, but the planet here is Saturn, and the message here, the planet that rules the action, I would say, is Saturn. And so I feel like the action here is like a standstill. So it's kind of like whatever issue that has been brought to the forefront of media or was going to be brought to the forefront of media, there's something saying stop, wait, hold on, let's wait, let's use some discretion here, let's show some patience. This issue, the world's not ready for this. Okay, so like the world's not ready for this message, the world's not ready to see this, the world's not ready to deal with this. Let's put this on pause, let's let it marinate, let's give it some time. Okay, and so then we have the moon is applying, because the moon moves faster than Mars, the moon is applying to Mars and also in a square. And what is the moon saying to Mars in this aspect? It feels like the moon is agreeing with Mars that, okay, let's just bury this, because the moon has to do with the subconscious and things that are kind of below the surface and a little bit shadowed. And so there's an agreement here. This is also like I said, there's a lot of agreement with this full moon. It's like the moon is agreeing with Mars, saying, yeah, you know what, I'm going to help you just sort of like fizzle this out and hide it, especially with Neptune here in conjunction. One more thing I wanted to cover here is that Mars is in a sextile with Mercury in Libra, and Mercury is stationary. So this full moon is actually kicking off, and I've seen a lot of astrologers talking about this Mercury retrograde being kicked off at this full moon. Mercury is not in retrograde at the point of the full moon. Mercury is stationary, meaning Mercury is not moving. And Mars in Gemini, it's kind of agreeing with the full moon that's saying like, pause, wait, hold up. But moving forward from this full moon, things will begin to become exposed. And what's being exposed in media, what will be exposed in media is celebrity relationships or famous relationships. So the relationships, this is the Libra, the relationships of people, like famous people, is going to be exposed in media, and also issues pertaining to relationships and relationship law, because we do have Saturn in Aquarius here. So the way that we, legalize or not legalize particular relationship dynamics is also a thing that can be under review over the weeks following this full moon. We also do still have Mars in Aquarius, squaring Uranus in Taurus. We've had this going on for quite some time, and why not? It's there here for this full moon. Again, still, it looks like the pandemic is not going anywhere right now. It's staying, with us. It's going to be with us for a while. However, because the North Node did just go into conjunction with Uranus, there is a collective energy that's saying, let's move on, let's move forward, let's push past this standstill, let's get on with our lives and let's move on past this. So this is something that will be slowly disintegrating, changing, evolving over the course of the next few months. When Saturn gets out of that square with Uranus and enters Pisces, I think that's the first quarter of 2023. I do predict that the pandemic will be really not the issue that it has been. So, how is this affecting you? I will say that that is going to depend on where this is happening in your chart, how it's aspecting your particular natal placements, and what's going on for you already in your life. How's this going to show up? So make sure to check out the signs. I am also doing chart readings for people that do not have their birth time. So if you don't have your birth time, the technique that I use worked pretty well if you use your sun sign in place of your rising sign. So go ahead and watch for your sun sign if you do not know your rising sign, if you do not have your exact time of birth, and that will work out just fine. Without further ado, let's get into each sign. Okay, Aries, this full moon is happening in your 12th house. It's in conjunction with Neptune, and so it does look like some issue involving the 12th house is disintegrating and just completely dissolving before your eyes. What could this be? So the 12th house has to do with your mental health. This has to do with your relationship to the divine, and Neptune does rule your 12th house. So this is a very personal ending. The 12th house is where we go to be alone with our own thoughts and with our own sense of self. And to have a culmination of this, I'm hearing the word bittersweet. There's a bittersweet ending to things. What is being ended? Possibly you're losing something that you value because there is this sextile to Uranus in the North Node in your second house of values and things that you possess, things that you own, skills that you have. This is your resource house, so you're possibly losing a resource. And because it's Uranus, and Uranus is the ruler of your 11th house, and Saturn is transiting your 11th house, which is also in a sextile to Chiron in your first house, there's like a painful loss of potentially friendships, or the other thing that it can be is a painful loss of a hope or expectation that you had for the future. So it's kind of like you're looking ahead, and possibly like this vision that you had for yourself of the future is just like disintegrating before your eyes. Okay. And this could be your place in a group of friends, the way that you identified with a group of friends. This could be, something that's very surprising to you. So this change could be very surprising, very sudden. It can feel very, very final. There is this sextile to Pluto, and Pluto is your 10th house here. So there can be an ending, I would say, of, this can involve an ending with a career. This can be an ending that changes the way that people view you. Of course, I'm talking in extremes here because this is where the planets are in the houses that they are in your house. This might not have such a heavy impact on you based on the planets that you have in your personal birth chart. Okay, so I'm not trying to scare you here. I do see this change feeling fated because this North Node is involved so heavily. So even though these changes can feel sudden or painful and there's a sense of loss with them, it does feel like it's all meant to be. It's all happening. So as things are falling apart, they're making way for things to fall into place for you. The other thing that I will tell you is Pluto does have to do not just with explosive endings and finales, but also has to do with secrecy and things not always being exactly as they seem. So while this issue may just be suddenly, or whatever it is that you're dealing with may feel very sudden and very final, there is something under the surface, I would say, that is not exactly quite as it seems, and it will take some time for that to reveal itself. Keep it in mind. Keep that that sense of awareness that as things are ending for you in this sector of your life, and many sectors of your life potentially, that your understanding of why things are happening and how things are happening right now is going to change. Neptune with this full moon gives a lot of confusion. It leaves a lot of questions unanswered. And those questions that you have, or even if you think that you have those questions answered, over time, you may realize that the truth was actually something else, that there is actually something going on under the surface. Mars is in Gemini here, so I'm encouraging everybody. This is also your third house of communication. So I do encourage you to document what it is that you're going through right now, because then in the future, it's going to be a good resource for you to look back on and to, more fully grasp what was happening to you at this time. Taurus, this is an interesting full moon for you guys. I think there's going to be a lot of you guys that this full moon just kind of goes by without much of a bump for you. And then there's going to be some of you that this is a really big deal for. It just depends on where your ascendant falls within Taurus, because the ruler of Taurus is Venus, and Venus is not really being aspected at all in this chart, okay? But also Mercury is in Libra, Venus's sign, and doing nothing, just completely stationary. So there's not a lot of movement here for you unless you have your ascendant right at the mark where there's the North Node in Taurus, which is at 16 degrees and 18 degrees. So somewhere like in that middle range, I would give it like maybe an orb of like 3 degrees on either side. Then potentially this could have a big impact on you. How would this be impacting you? It looks like one of your friends is undergoing a loss of something or a fulfillment of something. It's kind of like they had some problem and it's just going away. And you are kind of here for it. It seems like you're celebrating with them. Or if they're undergoing a loss and they're not happy about it, you might actually feel kind of happy about it. You might feel like, oh, you know what? Like, this is actually something that's good for you. I don't know if I'm really in the right place to say anything about it, against, Mercury is stationary here. So Mercury's you're probably not going to say anything to your friend about how you think this is actually good for them. But, they seem to be undergoing a loss of something, and you are supporting it. You think that this is actually a good thing. So alternatively, because the 11th house isn't just to do with our friends, but it's also to do with our dreams and vision for the future. This is a very, very, very dreamy full moon for you guys. And this can be a full moon where you are looking towards the future and you may have, fulfilled a particular dream. And you may have, something has come to fruition that is something that you have really wished for. And it could feel like it has happening suddenly. It's happening, it feels like everything is sort of falling into place because of fate. And it can also feel like this is something that you personally worked hard for and made happen because Uranus and the North Node in your first house. So this has to do with you supporting and making something happen. So this can, you're not doing anything at this time of this full moon, but this is coming to a close. This is coming to culmination at the time of this full moon. If it is that for you, if you are celebrating a success of a dream, I will caution you that if it seems more simple than it is, if you're just like, wow, this is really like, it just all sort of like came together and this is just really fated and it's really meant to be. There is some things about it, like watch your vision on this, because try to not be deceived, try to have clarity, because Neptune is creating a lot of mental fog around this full moon for everybody. And, it is in sextiling Pluto, and Pluto is saying that there are some things under the surface that are not exactly as they seem. So, hopefully that's not anything too crazy. I'm not able to see, with this full moon, what it is that's under the surface, what it is that is not 100% as it seems. So just keep that in mind. Celebrate, but try not to, if this celebration of a success and this fulfillment of a dream is causing you to be elated and you are wanting to make huge decisions at this time, I would give it a little bit of time before you make some big major decisions about whether that's, where you're putting your money or where you're committing your time. Just give it a little bit of time. Let the pieces fall on the floor before you read them. Okay, Gemini, what is going on for you with this full moon? This full moon is taking place in your 10th house. This has to do with success and achievements, the way other people see you, and also your career. It's not necessarily always your career, but it's something that you feel is important, that you have to give back to the world. There's this full moon, it's in Pisces, and it's in conjunction with Neptune here. And so there's an ending, there's like a success. There's a fulfillment of something here in your 10th house sector, and yet you do not feel ready to share it, okay? Why do I say this? Mercury is your chart ruler, and Mercury is stationary in Libra in your 5th house. So this is maybe a baby for you. Like, this is your baby. This is your creative project that is, finishing up, and you might normally feel like you want to share this with the world right now, but something is holding you back. You may be feeling that sextile between Pluto and Capricorn in your 8th house of change and transformation, and also, this full moon in your 10th house, the sextile. What it's telling me is that you can feel the fact that things are not exactly as they seem. You understand that things are about to change, and you don't really want to celebrate too early. Mars, because Mars is in your 1st house, if your ascendant is anywhere near 11 degrees, which is where Mars is right now, then you definitely are saying, wait, hold up on this. I'm just going to keep this private. I'm going to keep this ending, this success, this dream sort of like private and, away from the public eye, because, there's some things, I just have a feeling there's some things that maybe I still need to work out. Or you're kind of waiting, maybe sometimes waiting, some of you waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak. So there's some caution with this full moon, and I think you guys are a little bit tapped into it. So listen to that intuition that's telling you to wait on whatever that it is. Once the moon passes out of conjunction with Neptune, which will be very quickly after this full moon, because the moon moves at 13 degrees per day, then things will begin to become a little more clear to you, and you'll know what to do. So just trust that intuition and wait a little bit. Okay, Cancer rising, this full moon is happening for you guys in your 9th house. This is the house of ascension. This is the house of spirituality, belief, long distance travel, becoming more than what we are, expanding beyond our sense of individual self, and also where we desire to understand the individual self within the greater scope of the cosmos. To have a full moon here in conjunction with Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, which is the sign here, it's telling me that you are ending, fulfilling, letting go of a particular vision. Why a vision? Why a dream? Why a hope for the future? Well, first of all, Neptune and Pisces has to do with our dreams, but it's also sextiling the North Node and Uranus in Taurus, which is your 11th house of hopes, dreams, and wishes for your future. So it's as if there's something at this point that you're losing faith in. I want to say it's like you're giving up. You're like dissolving. And maybe even that dissolving is happening with the culmination and with the success of something, but it seems kind of sudden, like possibly you're suddenly realizing that there's something that you don't believe in here that was up until this point in alignment with what you thought your future was going to look like. So it's like you're looking forward into the future, and there's then there's suddenly this full moon in your 9th house, and you're like, ooh, I think this isn't actually what I believe. This isn't actually what is true for me. This isn't actually what I have faith in. I'm losing faith. So I do feel like this is kind of you losing faith in something, and it could be losing faith in someone or a group that you have previously like identified with or associated yourself with and aligned yourself with, because the 11th house does have to do with the groups that we associate ourselves with and the friendships that we have and our peers and our groups, the people that we look next to and we say like, I identify with you, you're like me. So when you're losing faith and it's sextiling this part of your chart, you may feel really different than other people in this group. You may be starting to feel really alienated from the people that you thought were once aligned with your vision and with your perspective on reality. Okay, so the ninth house does talk a lot to do with our beliefs about reality and how we see reality. And with Neptune here, these things are becoming, they're hazy, they're dissolving, they're not what they once were. And you can be shifting directions, possibly because of something in your relationship sector. So it can be that you're changing your beliefs or your vision for the future based on what's best for you in a relationship. There could be that your partner is going through something really big and transforming, and it's impacting you, and it's impacting where you think you're going to go, and also impacting how you perceive the world. So there's a number of ways that this could play out, but the ultimate feeling here is the feeling of losing faith and losing sight of something that you thought was for you. Now you feel like, maybe it's not for you. Maybe you feel alienated from these groups. So this is a struggle. This is a struggle. So with Neptune being in conjunction with the moon, things can be kind of foggy at this time. You may just have this feeling, this overall sensation, this kind of like mood of these things happening, and there's not a lot of clarity about how to make, how to put your next foot down in front of yourself. At this time, I would just give it some time, because the moon's going to move out of conjunction. The moon's going to move of Neptune. The moon's going to move out of Pisces. So give yourself a few days at least, just kind of like shake off that foggy energy and start to see things a little more clearly. So that's my advice to you. Leo, what's going on for you guys? The Pisces full moon conjunct Neptune is happening in your 8th house. The 8th house has to do with radical personal transformations, and also has to do with secrets and things that are behind closed doors. There's a lot of secrecy all over this chart for you, and honestly, it seems like something is, maybe changing privately, and you're keeping it completely under wraps. There may be also like a lot of projects or a lot of things that you're doing right now that you're just trying to keep away from the public eye. You don't want people to know about. You're very closely guarding what's happening to you, what you're experiencing, what you're working on. There's a lot that's being hidden right now. And at this full moon, I would not expect it to come forward, because Mercury is stationary, and also because Neptune is in conjunction with this full moon. So it's actually helping you out. It's putting the fog, it's putting the wool over people's eyes in very Neptune fashion. If you have a secret you're trying to keep, you don't need to be afraid that this full moon is going to expose you. It does look like you're going to be able to keep whatever it is that's private for you private. Alternatively, it could be that there was an expectation, there is an expectation of something changing for you when it comes to your career, because you do have Uranus and the North Node sextiling this full moon, and that is happening in your 10th house. It's where Uranus is. This is your career sector. This is your, direction. This is your how you appear to the public eye. You're changing this part of your life. You've been changing this part of your life for the last few years, whether that's your career or anyway, however it is that you want to make your mark on the world is under evolution. And there's some change that you thought was going to take place to support that is coming to a close. So I would say that it's like, this is also shared finances. So this can be, that the loan that you have for this project is, the loan money is used up. Or this could be an investor that, it's almost like, I want to say the investor's pulling out of the investment, But it doesn't look like that because it is supporting, it is sextiling this Uranus and North Node in your 10th house. So whatever is happening for you in your 10th house, it's being fulfilled, but it's also disintegrating. So it's possible that there's like an issue with finances, and funding for whatever that it is that is disappearing. This issue is no longer an issue. It is, whatever issue that was, it's coming to a close, and that will be the end of that. I do want to warn you that this issue could prop up again, even though it may suddenly be disappearing. This issue with funding or with something you thought maybe would change what's happening with you for your career. It can possibly, crop up again because there is, like I said, a lot to do with secrecy in this chart, and some of that secrecy could be from others. Some of that fogginess could be your own lack of clarity and your own lack of ability to perceive what's really happening, because there's maybe like a lot of unknowns is what I'm hearing. So, if this is bringing good things to you, great. I'm cautioning you to not make huge financial decisions until, maybe like the 14th of September. Like, wait till that full moon effect is over. You'll begin to have some clarity to make some of those big financial decisions if you need to. Just give it a few days and let the fog, evaporate. Okay, Virgo rising, this full moon is happening in your 7th house of relationships to other people. It looks like either your relationship with somebody is coming to a close, or the chapter is ending when it comes to something between you and another person, or it can be that person is undergoing a change. It is sextiling your 9th house. I'm sorry, I originally thought this was going to be your 10th house, but it is sextiling your 9th house, and you do have Uranus in the North Node conjuncting this. So this can be impacting your belief system. You could possibly be coming into a belief, or have come into a belief, that you realize you're no longer compatible with this other person, and that could be what's going on. The alternative is that the person that you're with, or a significant person in your life, is undergoing an ending, finishing, culmination of something that is potentially like a creative project that they have undergone that is involved with their beliefs and their belief system. It doesn't look like you're really doing much at this time. So if your relationship is ending, then it's probably happening quickly. It's dissolving like rapidly, kind of almost out of nowhere, and it's not really much that you're doing about it, because your chart ruler is stationary. Mercury is in Libra, so you are thinking about your relationship, but it's kind of like you're just sitting there like, what? Okay, like this stuff is happening around you, possibly happening to you, but you're not really taking a lot of action on it. So in the next 2 weeks, Mercury will go retrograde. So it can be that something happens at this point that you're like going to spend the next few weeks just kind of like unpacking and reflecting and being like, what happened? Like, what was this? Like, what was this person thinking? Because this could be like that somebody, at this time tries to like, because this is your 9th house of beliefs, this can be somebody trying to like convert you or convince you of their belief system, or just trying to give you, like, I'm hearing like possibly like an ultimatum when it comes to like their perspective. It's like they're stirring stuff up and things are happening to you, and it's not really coming from you. It's not really like even something that was necessarily on your radar, but like here it is, and it can be really confusing with Neptune in conjunction to the moon. Kind of creates like a fog. Like it kind of seems like things aren't necessarily as they seem. So don't let yourself be gaslit at this time, and also try not to make too severe judgments on people at this time, because over the next few days that like fog from Neptune is going to be cleared up as the moon moves out of Pisces. And so around maybe like the 4th or even the 5th, things should start to look a little more clear to you about the situation. So if you have any major decisions to make, it honestly looks like the decision is being taken out of your hands. But if you have any decisions to make, wait till like the 4th or the 5th of September to like make those decisions. But it's certainly that at that point, if things will begin to become more clear for you, and you'll be able to start unraveling and unpacking the events of this full moon. Of course, this all depends. I always give like the most extreme possible reading. So it all depends like who, who you are, what's going on for your life, and also just, where your personal planets are. Are they even being aspected? If they're not, this can be something very, very minor. So, it can be something that doesn't even affect you at all. It can just be things that are happening around you and maybe you don't even notice them. So this could be a quiet full moon for you guys, but I'm just giving you the potential, biggest option of what could be happening, okay? Okay, Libra rising, what's happening for you at this full moon? Well, things are coming to a head in your 6th house of day-to-day work and the way that you have, put into place your habits and your routines to support yourself. The sun is in your 12th house. This has to do with your mental health. And what I'm feeling for you guys with this full moon in conjunction with Neptune is just like this fizzling out, this like sudden running out of steam, because there's also this sextile to Pluto in your 4th house, and it's kind of like there can be things that are happening at home that are demanding your attention and they're taking your attention away from work. And so it's kind of like you all of a sudden, maybe surprisingly, because of Uranus being sextiled here too, you may surprisingly suddenly feel like you just don't have energy for work anymore, and you might have to take some time off. You might have to take time off for your mental health. You might have to take time off to deal with things at home. And also with the North Node and Uranus being aspected here in your 9th house, you may have to reevaluate what you believe about certain things, especially when it relates to how you have been taking care of yourself, and also, how you have been serving others, because you might have been serving others too much, because this 6th house, this doesn't necessarily talk about what you're doing for work, but this is the house of service, the house of devotion. I think it's a very much overlooked aspect of this house. So a lot of you guys, I think, are going to be feeling like you're out of energy because you've been serving others too much. You've been giving too much away, too much of yourself away in service to other people, and you're kind of running at the bottom of your reservoir here. So you may need to take that time away, okay? Like stop everything, give yourself a break, okay? Because that is what Neptune wants you to do right here. It's just like dissolve this part of your life. Just say like, no, stop. You're out of steam. You're out of energy. Take a break, reevaluate. How is this fitting into your life? Because you're too depleted right now. And because Mercury is in your 1st house right now, but Mercury is not doing anything, it can be really like, it's almost like, what I'm feeling is that you don't even have the energy to like speak up for yourself at this time. Like you don't even have the energy to like make this change. You may feel like you do need to make these changes, but like you don't have the energy for it. Like, where is that coming from? Like you just don't even feel like you have enough energy to like verbally fight for yourself anymore. So I would, call into work. Call it like you might have to suddenly drop people like out of character for you. You might have to stop the responsibilities, just disappear, AWOL on people for a little bit. Give yourself some time. Neptune's going to be here for the next, this conjunction, this full moon can last for up to 3 days before or after this full moon. So I would give yourself like, even like a few days of rest. And then after that, Mercury is going to be retrograding for the next several weeks in your 1st house. Then at that point, with Neptune gone out of that full moon aspect, you'll be able to see things more clearly and be able to unpack analytically what's working, what's not working for you when it comes to taking care of yourself and taking care of others and looking for the balance in that sector of your life. Okay, Scorpio rising. I recorded a reading for you guys yesterday, and for some reason I didn't quite capture it. So I'm doing it again. I'm taking this as a sign that this is the message that you guys are meant to hear, as opposed to the one I did yesterday for you. So anyway, with that being said, the full moon in Pisces is happening for you in your 5th house. This has to do with children. This has to do with creative projects. This has to do with people that you're dating. Something is ending here. Something is culminating here. It looks like whatever it is that you're doing in this part of your life, you have the support of the people around you, because there is a sextile, a supportive sextile to Uranus and the North Node in your 7th house. So it seems that, you know, the people in your life, the important people in your life, perhaps a partner, perhaps a, you know, work partner, whoever that it be, they're supporting you. They're, you know, they're agreeing. And so I do also want to mention that your chart ruler, Mars, is in Gemini and is in a loose T-square with this full moon from the sun and the moon. And so it does look like this is something that you're instigating. It's not something that's necessarily happening to you, but it's a decision that you're making. And you're doing it because you have bigger things in store. So this Mars is in your 8th house of personal transformation. And this can also be a decision that you're making because of joint finances, because of your financial situation as it pertains to shared resources with a partner, as it pertains to government loans, investors. The way that your finances are tied up in other people can also play a role in this. But I'm also getting the sense that it's because you have something bigger in store for you. So it's like you're done with something that's happening creatively for yourself, and it's because you're getting ready for something bigger. Okay, so that is what I have for you guys for the full moon. Advice that I would have for you is, especially because Mars is in your 8th house of shared resources and the moon is in conjunction with Neptune. Neptune can cause a little bit of a haze, a little bit of lack of clarity. There is a sextile to Pluto here, signifying that things are not always exactly as they seem. If you are in a position where you're going to make a large financial decision, wait a few days, wait until, like, I would say like the 14th for that haziness, that fog of Neptune and Pisces to wear off. And the moon will then be in let's see, the moon will be in Aries, so you'll be able to make decisions with more clarity and more focus. Okay, Sagittarius, something is changing for you in the 4th house. This has to do with the home. This has to do with the mother. This has to do with the origin, where we come from. For most of you guys, this is going to be your home, your safe spot. And there's something that is ending. There's some dream that is coming to a close when it comes to your home life. This is having a lot of support from other areas of your life. There's a supporting sextile from your 6th house of work and service, which is Uranus and the North Node to this aspect. There's Pluto in your 2nd house of resources and self-worth, which is also in harmonious supportive sextile. And then the 10th house, the sun is transiting through your 10th house of career, and it's being illuminated and focused on right now. So it looks like there's a lot of agreement in your life right now about whatever is happening in your 4th house of home. This can be like habits that you are changing when it comes to like your daily routine, your daily habits, habits that are more in alignment with what your ultimate dreams and goals are. Pisces and Neptune have to do with our dreams. So this feels like it's meant to be. This feels like it's right for you. I did pull a card for you guys. I got, I don't know if you guys can see it. There's a little bit of like light. I pulled it, anyway. I pulled the star card for you guys for this. And so it just feels like there's something that is falling into alignment for you. Okay. So it's like, with the star card, we see harmony happening in nature. There's water being taken from the well and being poured onto the ground in order to nourish the ground. So there's this like sort of symbiotic energy here. So whatever's happening for you in your 4th house, it's going to feel really, really good. And it's going to feel like this is supposed to happen. This is meant to be. You earned this. You deserve this. You've worked hard for this. And now it just seems to be happening for you. With the support of more than you anticipated was going to be supporting you on this. So I would say this is a good full moon for you guys. There's a little bit of word of caution I'm giving everybody with this full moon is that with the sextile to Pluto and with Neptune in conjunction here, there's a little bit of fogginess or haziness. We cannot have the most clarity at this time, and things may not be quite as smooth or quite exactly as we perceive them to be at the full moon. So I would just, if you have any major decisions to make based off of this full moon event happening for you, then I would just delay it a few days, give it till like the 14th before you finalize any major decisions. Capricorn rising, happy full moon. This full moon for you is happening in your third house. This has to do with communication. This has to do with siblings. This has to do with short distance travel. And Neptune here is sort of dissolving an issue for you. And there's a sextile here from Pluto, which is in your first house of Capricorn, that to me, the energy that I'm really getting was just that you guys are really over it. You're really done trying to communicate with somebody, possibly with a lot of different people about a particular issue that is important to you. And it's important. It's something that is a dream or a vision for you. Pisces and Neptune has to do with our own dreams and visions. And this is something personal. This is something emotional. And it's like you've been trying to communicate to people, and you're over it. Like you're just done. You're done justifying yourself. You're done explaining yourself. The card that I pulled for you guys this is the Five of Wands. To me, this just has an energy of like petty arguing. It has like a very like juvenile feel to it. And it's kind of like, you're like this. What are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? And that's what I'm feeling for you guys, Capricorn, is that's just sort of the energy that you are coming to. So the culmination, every full moon is a culmination or a fulfillment of something. For you, this is a culmination and a fulfillment of like wasting your breath on something, like trying to get something across. You're not going to do it anymore. And where are you focused instead? Where is this allowing space to clear up for you? This is allowing space to clear up for you in your fifth house. This has to do with children. This has to do with creative projects. This has to do with dating. Okay. And this also your energy. Why do I say the fifth house? Because we have Uranus and the North Node in Taurus in your fifth house. And then also, where is your energy being cleared up to redirect towards? It's also towards the sixth house. This has to do with our service towards others, but also the sign here is Gemini and Mars is in Gemini. So it's kind of like there's more creative stuff. There's more interests that you are focused on when it comes to, it's kind of like you're redirecting where your communication is going. You were communicating with certain sect of people over here in a certain type of way, and now you're completely done with that. You're moving on to like, now you're communicating more like in a different way, in a different area of your life, and there's a shift of energy, there's a shift of direction over who's getting your authentic voice and who's getting the messages that are really important to you. So there's a difference of who you're trying to communicate with, and also there's a difference of like aligning your values with other people. So it's like, okay, over here you were trying to like align yourself with somebody who really didn't see eye to eye with you when it came to values and when it came to things that are important. And so now you're switching over and you're saying, okay, like, you know what, I'm just going to do my thing, and like the right people are going to find me. So I'm just going to like buckle down and focus on the stuff that really gets me excited, that's really my jam. And you know what, if you guys want on board, that's great. Let's network. Otherwise, I'm just going to be over here and I'm going to do my thing, and like you're going to be much happier with that. So I'm happy for you, Capricorn. If you're feeling really done with something, let it go, because there's a lot of juicy stuff waiting for you when you do that, okay? Hello, Aquarius rising. The full moon in Pisces is happening in your second house, and Neptune has been in your second house for quite some time. So now this full moon is actually, the moon is in conjunction and alignment with Neptune. So whatever Neptune's been doing in your second house for the last few years, this is really going to be highlighted, and this is really coming to a culmination and ending here for you. This can be very exciting. It may not feel very eventful or very exciting, because Neptune creates a lot of haze, a lot of fog, a lot of confusion, and a lot of like really, really like quiet dissolution of things. So at this full moon, it may seem very, very quiet and very uneventful, but give it a few days for that moon to move out of Pisces, to burn off the fog of Neptune, and things will start to become more clear. So I do predict that the events happening from the effects of this full moon will be happening a few days after the full moon on the 10th. What's going on for you guys here? The second house has to do with our self-worth. Okay, so that's predominantly what I'm hearing, but it also has to do with your own resources, your own piggy bank, and the things that you value, and also the skills that you feel like are your most important assets that you have to like give to the world and to use in order to survive. So I did pull a card for you. The card that I pulled was the 9 of the Nine of Pentacles. So this has to do with prosperity. So I'm seeing that something is ending in your life. The full moon's always an ending, a culmination of something. Something is ending in your second house, whether this has to do with something that you're doing to make money, or whether this has to do with how you perceive yourself. This thing is coming to an end, and this is a good thing for you. This is leading the way towards a more prosperous financial future. Okay, and there is also one thing that I noticed. There's a sextile to your fourth house towards Uranus and the North Node. And so it's like you're receiving support for this decision from your family, or alternatively, you're recognizing that your family is not exactly the people that you thought. So Uranus sometimes comes with surprises, sometimes comes with, information that seems out of left field. Things are not exactly as they seem. That's a big theme with this full moon. And so it may feel like, your family members are not exactly the people that you thought. And you're thinking back and you're kind of like realizing like how they possibly have fed you lies about who you are and what your self-worth is. From the past. And so there's a letting go of that. Okay. And it's a little bit of a little bit of a bittersweet letting go of this. If there is something sad or, not serving you about your family. So there is that, but I do see that it's funny because like, even if they're not exactly who you thought they were, them not being who you thought you were can be a good thing. Because this is a sextile. So there's an opportunity here for you to end something and move forward and become prosperous, and it is connected to your family. So it's possible that your family is the thing that you're having to let go of in a way, and letting go of some of the things that they've taught you about yourself. Or it could be that your family is actually supporting you. Like I said, I would give this a few days before you like settle your mind on what the reality of it is, because of this Neptune creating sort of like this hazy fogginess. So if you're finding out surprising stuff about your family around this time, just give it a few days before you cast any judgment, because things might really rapidly change about what information is coming to the surface about this situation. Okay, Pisces, you guys are the stars of this full moon, obviously, because the full moon's happening in your own sign, and it's happening in conjunction with your modern ruler, Neptune, in your own sign. So what's happening for you at this full moon? Well, more or less, if your ascendant degree is anywhere near 17 degrees of Pisces, excuse me, that will impact you more or less if it's further away from this. But for everybody, for every single Pisces rising, this is going to have an impact on you in such a way that it is fundamentally you saying goodbye to something within yourself, something about yourself. And I gotta say, like, for a lot of you, especially those of you that are psychic, that receive psychic dreams on the regular, that receive visions on the regular, there's going to be some wild, crazy shit happening for you at this full moon. So I would pay a lot of attention to that. It's not like a new moon where the new moon is so quiet and so low energy that you don't even see the effect of it usually until later. Or it's something that you've already put work into, and then it happens, but you're not really you're more in a passive frame of mind. No, for this full moon, this is very active. This is extremely, your cerebral cortex is going to be extremely active at this time. So be prepared to receive a lot of incoming messages from the other side at this time. Record your dreams, pay attention to them, write them down, because they're not going to be clear. Okay, because it's Neptune. And so these may be very bizarre, very otherworldly, messages coming in, especially because it's sextiling Uranus in your third house of communication. So this is like surprising news that's coming to you from the other side. This is like, sudden and like very strange, and possibly, prophetic, because futuristic Uranus is here. Possibly prophetic things coming to you from the other side too. So, and why do I say that it's not going to make any sense? Well, because Neptune has this fogginess, this like lack of clarity about it. And so to have to have Neptune in conjunction with the moon here in your first house, things aren't going to be clear for you until, a few days after. So this full moon's happening on the 10th. So give yourself till like at least the 4th to start like processing the stuff that you've been experiencing. But that's why I'm saying write it down, because like the brain deletes information that it doesn't find relevant or important because it has no context for. So it's possible that you guys are going to be like having a lot of thoughts, having a lot of feelings, and because you're not able to make sense of any of it, you just delete all that information, and then you're kind of left like sort of like SOL. Like a few days later, you're like, well, that was weird. I had this, dream that you remember some snippets and fragments of. It's not going to help you if you don't have the record of it. So, keep a record of that. Like, what else could be happening for you if you guys are not, if you're not receiving messages like this? What else could be happening for you? Well, the third house has to do with siblings. It has to do with, short distance travel. It has to do with our communication style. So it can be that you are letting go of some part of yourself that has to do with the way that you've communicated to people in the past, especially since the sun is transiting your 7th house of others. And so with Uranus here in the sextile in your 3rd house, it's kind of it's paving the way for you to have a new like communication style with other people. So you're more able to make headway with people if you come at it from a new approach. Okay, so with Pisces rising can kind of be like very non-confrontational and very people-pleasing. So if you think of like the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, like Pisces is the fawn, so they're going to, maybe your communication style in the past has been, that of a peacemaker and that of just kind of like smoothing things over and wanting everybody to be happy and not wanting to upset people and, just wanting to be agreeable. And there's a lot of agreeableness happening at this full moon. Even Mercury is in Libra, like being agreeable AF and also not moving. So it's kind of like you're probably not gonna be able to find your voice at this time, but you might get some ideas, some insights about how you can change the way that you communicate with people moving forward. So if you do have some insights like that or some observations that you're making, again, write it down and try to absorb that information so that for the next, few days, and actually Mercury will be going retrograde after, this is the kickoff. Mercury is stationary at this full moon and then goes retrograde for, in your 8th house of Libra for the next few weeks. So you will have an opportunity to review this with more mental clarity in the next coming weeks. Okay, so I think that's it for the full moon in Pisces for all the signs. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please make sure to like this video. It really helps me out, and subscribe to my channel so that you can get more content if this is something that has been helpful for you. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.